how's it going today, guys? This is Brandon with the Football Frame of Mind podcast, man. It is November 24th, man. We have so much awesome content to delve into between college football, NFL, and probably some other cool storylines as well. But before we get into all that, man, just want to thank you guys for anybody who is subscribed. Thank you so much, man. We're over 17,000 subscribers. We've been doing this about a year and a half or so. We're approaching 1 million views. I'm trying to get to 1 million views, preferably sooner rather than later, but we can't thank you guys more than enough for the people who have been with us on the journey since the beginning. Or maybe it's your first time checking us out, man. If this is your first time checking us out, man, don't forget to subscribe. If you like this kind of content, make sure you like the video. Leave a comment, and we love getting feedback as well. And if you are subscribed to the channel, do not forget to hit that bell notification so you never miss a beat. You can check us out as well on a bunch of other platforms like TikTok, X. We do live streaming on Twitch. And we are all across all audio platforms as well, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, things of that nature. Now, I know a lot of you guys are watching right now thinking, where is Cam? What's going on? We had some technical difficulties over on Cam's end, so he will not be able to participate here tonight. So it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate, but we're going to move on. We're going to be able to do good, man. But don't forget also, this is brought to you exclusively from the Villain Sports Media Network. I will drop a logo on the screen at some point or numerous times in the video. Myself, Cam are involved, as well as a bunch of really other good podcasters that came over with us from the previous network we were on. And it's a really cool thing. We're doing a whole bunch of like football. We're doing basketball. We have a wrestling show. It's a startup. It's doing really good. But definitely, if you like this kind of content, make sure to go on YouTube and check out the Villain Sports Media Network. You'll find all of the other cool content creators we have brought over with us there. Subscribe to them. Check out their content. I promise you will not be disappointed. But I feel like I've been running my mouth too much. We're 2 minutes in. So let's get started, man. So college football, man. I thought last week and like the previous week were crazy with upsets and crazy wins and victories. But this week is no different. I've got about 5 games college and about 5 or 6 games NFL we're going to delve into, kind of go through scores, discussions, things like that. There's only so much I can do, just me, myself. I prefer it being 2 of us, but no worries. So first game on the agenda is going to be Ole Miss traveling to Gainesville to the Swamp to take on the Florida Gators, man. And if you didn't know, Florida the previous week had knocked off my LSU Tigers, man. Unfortunately, knocked us out of the top 25. It was a really good confidence builder for them and Billy Napier. This is a game that most people picked Ole Miss on the over-under like by 1 million. Like nobody really thought they were going to have a chance. But let's do this, man. Florida pulls off the upset, back-to-back games versus top 25 teams. They get the victory, man. 24-17. Let's check out some of these stats, man. Jackson Dart turned the ball over a few times. Not a terrible game, though. 24 for 41, 323, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Didn't do too bad. Caden Lee is a starting receiver. His number 1 receiver, caught for 94 yards and a touchdown. But, man, look at Florida coming through clutch, man. Lagway didn't have to do a whole lot through the air. 10 for 17, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. They were really able to get it going on the ground, man. Montrell Johnson is a monster for them. 18 carries for 107 and a touchdown. Their offense did just enough to win this game. I think the real story of this game is that Florida has finally woken up. They're not an untalented team. Florida's a very talented squad. It's a gimme. Billy Napier's a really good recruiter. And Florida's a gimme to get really high-end talent. Florida's a really good hot spot in the country for a lot of good talent. Their defense stepped up in this game tremendously from the defensive line perspective, man. They're really good at getting pass rush on Jackson Dart. And obviously, like we've seen before, Dart turned the ball over 2 times. And in a game like this, where it was a 7-point victory, those interceptions really play a key into who wins and loses. I mean, Ole Miss drops to number 15 now. It's looking like they're probably going to be out of the playoffs. Their percentages are probably going to be better than a couple other teams we're going to talk about. But Florida, man, they become bowl eligible, 6-5. So they're definitely going to a bowl game, and they're going to look to maybe finish the season 7-5. I don't know who's next on their schedule, but it's good to see Coach Napier kind of starting to get things together. They get a win, man. 2 really good confidence builders. I've got to imagine that's really going to help them in recruiting. Because, I mean, earlier on when they got boat raced by Miami, I feel like that was really going to hurt them in recruiting, but I feel like since Mertz got hurt and Lagway's gotten to play, and they're starting to believe in him, and they're starting to really play really well, and they're buying into what Coach Napier's been saying, Florida is going to be a good football team next year, in my opinion. I think they've got a lot of good things going for them, and Coach Napier's secured his contract in the next year. So a lot of us thought he was going to get ran off, especially with how their season started. But good win nonetheless, man. So if we're going to get into our next game on the agenda, is another big-time SEC game. Let's see. It's going to be this one right here, man. Texas A&M at Auburn. This game, I caught a good portion of the second half, and obviously this game went into overtime. A&M was down to Auburn early. A&M came back in the fourth quarter. And Auburn almost fumbled this, not going to say physically fumbled, but almost lost this game away. They ended up kicking a field goal at the end of the game, or at the end of the fourth quarter to end up going into overtime, which their field goals, their special teams, especially field goal committee, has not been very consistent this year, if you'd say. Had a guy kicking for them who hadn't really been all there long. Went into overtime, got past double overtime. They go into sudden death. First two possessions, nobody gets anything. Florida turns around, gets a touchdown. A&M, I want to say the starting tailback. I forget his name. What is his name? Amari Daniels, who had a really good game, man. 27 carries for 90 yards on a touchdown. Dropped the ball in the end zone, literally in his hand to secure to go to the next round of sudden death. They end up taking a big loss that probably knocks them out of the playoff contention as well. That's their third loss on the season, as well as another conference loss. This is a huge win for Auburn. Auburn has been horrible this year. Like, this is a huge confidence builder for that team. Hugh Freeze, especially going into the next game when they go into the Iron Bowl against Alabama, which I think it's in Tuscaloosa this year. This was a really good game, man. Marcel Reed played really well. 300 yards passing, man. 3 touchdowns. Did have a turnover. Noah Thomas for them. Over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. But, man, look at these numbers from Auburn, man. Peyton Thorne, 19 of 31, 301 yards. Throws 2 touchdowns, an interception. Jarquez Hunter, my apologies. Over 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then Cam Coleman, receiver for them, 7 catches for 128 and 2 touchdowns. Auburn did just enough. They had some very questionable officiating late in this game. They had a missed holding call on A&M's defense while they had a receiver for Auburn in the end zone, and a very bad call of offensive pass interference against Auburn as well. That was horrible, almost threw Auburn completely out of this game. But nonetheless, it's good to see. Like, I love these upsets because if you know LSU, we're already out of the playoffs. So I'm all for seeing chaos. This feels like 2007 all over again with all these teams losing in crazy fashion and people having upsets. Last week, this week, we've seen teams like BYU get beat. We've seen A&M get beat. We've seen Colorado get beat. And we have, I think, another upset on this list as well. But good confidence build for Auburn. And I really want to see what they're going to do against Alabama this week because, man, the Iron Bowl, if you guys don't know, it's always an instant classic, most of the time. And you really don't know whatever to expect. But let's get into this next game, man. This next game is one that I picked specifically because I felt like one team was going to win this game. And it did not go the way that I anticipated. That game is going to be Indiana at Ohio State. Oh, man. So where do I start? I was really high on Indiana. Now, I understand their strength of schedule may not have been the greatest. But they just played really good football all year. Coach Signetti had just got an 8-year extension with them. I think, it was an 8-year extension with Indiana. They've been playing really good. The thing that really, stood out to me was they were winning in convincing fashion. And then a team in Nebraska who narrowly beat Ohio State, Indiana boat raced them by 30+. Ran them out of the building. So I felt like, although it was in Columbus, that this could be a game that Indiana could possibly trap Ohio State. And I'm going to be honest with you. I watched pretty much the entire game. This was not that. That was a completely flipped on its head story. Will Howard played really good. He started this game 14 for 14, man. He finished his 22 of 26, 201 yards and 2 touchdowns, man. Trevion Henderson got a touchdown. Igbuka ended up with 7 for 80 and a touchdown receiving. Dude, Ohio State was hot. They were moving up and down the field with no questions asked, no pushback, man. Ohio State wins 38-15. That's a very convincing win. You look at Curtis Work for Indiana, 8 for 18 and only 68 yards. Ohio State's pass rush was insane. He had no time in the pocket. The second he get his drop back, looking up the field, there's already somebody in the backfield, man. They were doing really good running the ball, I feel like. Tyshawn Lawton ended up finishing almost 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they needed to be able to play more versatile and throw the ball, and they couldn't throw the ball. Ohio State's defensive front, their front seven's good. And they were pushing Indiana's offensive line back like every play. It was insane. I don't know if this knocks Indiana completely out of the playoff hook, but I want to say, depending on if Ohio State wins this next week, because they're going to be playing Michigan. Wow, I just forgot something. No, yeah, depending if they beat Michigan, Ohio State will be in the Big Ten title game. Now, I don't know if they lose. Does Indiana find themselves in that spot? Not entirely sure, but nonetheless, definitely did not go the way I thought it would, but a lot of other people picked Ohio State. So, unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Cinderella story, but maybe it's not over yet. We shall see. But we're going to get into our fourth matchup. Now, this one is a matchup that my co-host would not be very happy to talk about. Now, that matchup is going to be Alabama versus Oklahoma. Now, this is a game that did not go the way anybody thought it was going to go, in the sense that I think Alabama was a 14-point favorite in this game. Oklahoma has been horrendous on offense this year. Now, any Brent Venables-led team is going to be solid on defense. Oh, my gosh. Sorry, guys. We're having technical difficulties. So, let's click. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Player stats. Okay. All right, here we go. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Okay, so this was insane. And Oklahoma didn't even do anything crazy on offense. The main thing they were able to do is just run the ball and run it efficiently, in the sense that Jackson Arnold was 9 for 11, 68 yards. Nothing flashy, really efficient. But Jackson Arnold, 25 carries for 131 yards. That's the crazy thing. Oklahoma's offense has been completely stagnant this year. They just have no rhythm. Xavier Robinson ended up having over 100 yards. They controlled the ground. Robinson and Arnold both ran for over 5 yards a carry. Robinson got in the end zone twice. Definitely. Now, you got a couple of defensive touchdowns it's looking like as well. Oklahoma's defense is good. Offensively, they're horrendous. The big thing to me is Jalen Milroe for Alabama, 11 for 26, 164, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. That is something to me that I feel like cannot happen. I feel like that's something that, especially when your season is on the line, man, they just couldn't get anything going. They barely rushed for like 60 yards on the ground. Couldn't get in the end zone. Their leading receiver had 4 catches for 60 yards. They got in his grill, and they shook him up, and they contained this offense, man. Milroe ran for 7 yards total. It's crazy compared to what he did to LSU a couple of weeks ago. I think that is what, to me, stands out the most. Is that Alabama's out the playoffs now, more than likely. Now I'm looking at ESPN and it's saying they have like a 23% chance to still make it. They need a lot of dominoes to fall in their way for them to still make playoffs here. My thing is, it's done. It's complete chaos. Like, maybe you're probably still going to get 2 teams in there. It's looking like it's probably going to be Georgia and Texas. You're going to see some of these other teams. It was looking like what we said in the offseason, that the SEC was going to get 4 teams. But it's turned into a really cannibalistic conference, in the sense that people are just knocking each other off and just knocking them out of the playoffs. So, sucks for Kalen DeBoer, but it's good for the sense that it'll humble you. It'll humble a lot of the players, and it'll help you learn going forward what you can do differently going into next year, because I don't think Milroe is going to be coming back. And if he doesn't, Kalen DeBoer can probably run more of the offense that he's normally accustomed to running, and they'll probably have a lot more success. And hopefully they have better success on defense too, because that was kind of their Achilles heel going into this game. Or not even going into this game, just throughout the season. Now, the last game we're going to touch on, and then we're just going to pick a few games. I'm not going to do anything crazy. Let's talk about Vanderbilt at LSU. Now, a lot of people, like, this game probably wasn't on the radar. Both teams were 6-4 at the time. Both teams are not in the playoffs. They're both bowl eligible. LSU has underperformed up to this point. They had lost 3 in a row, which is very unfortunate. They just couldn't get it done, man. They drop on the A&M. They drop on the Alabama in terrible fashion, just like the A&M game. And then last week, they get upset by Florida. And a lot of speculation and just commotion and drama going on. LSU sitting at 4 losses. They only had 2 the last 2 years each. This was a really good game. This is probably one of the most complete games LSU has played all year. Give credit to Vanderbilt where it's at, though. They don't make many mistakes. Diego Pavia, 13 for 24, 186 yards and a touchdown. Didn't play a bad game, man. Him on the ground is dangerous. And they kept making this comparison to him and Manziel. I'm not saying he's Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel is one of my favorite college players ever. But I see similarities in the fact that he can scoot, bro. He can run. He can just go. Like, and I feel like they didn't let him do enough. Like, I felt like, and one of the guys on our, I guess in our network is a big Vanderbilt guy, and he's like, man, like, just let him keep going. He's got the hot hand, just keep going. Vanderbilt came out hot in this game. First play of the game, like a 60-plus yard touchdown. Things started to settle down. They were going back and forth. But if we start looking at some of these player stats, like I said, Pavia throws for almost 200 yards. He runs for like 40. His, I think Skinner's the one who's caught the touchdown. He was kind of silent after that. I think he got hurt, and he didn't really play anymore at that point. Garrett Nussmeier is probably one of the better games he's played for LSU in a while, man. 28 for 37, 332, and 1 touchdown, man. LSU gets the 24-17 victory. We look at the run game. LSU runs for about 140 yards on the ground between Josh Williams and Caden Durham. It's about time that we can actually get the job done running the ball. Like, that's what's been the Achilles heel of LSU all season, especially what's hurt them from a defensive perspective is that LSU's offense has been so one-dimensional that we've been turnover machines with Garrett Nussmeier, and we have not been able to run the ball to take the stress off and alleviate the pressure off of Nussmeier. We ran the ball great. Williams, 14 carries, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaged 6.5 yards a carry. And Caden Durham, the freshman sensation, 14 carries for 58 yards, no touchdowns, but averaged 4 yards a carry. That's tremendous. Then if we look at receiving, your receiving leader, Kyron Lacey, which is obviously your best receiver, man, 6 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Aaron Anderson, 6 for 65. He did have a touchdown that got overturned, which ended up putting LSU in a position where they could have lost this game. But nonetheless, man, defensively, LSU looked good. They were able to contain when needed. LSU's offense finally came through clutch for the defense because, man, like, LSU's defense looked bad a few games. And a lot of people are pointing the finger saying, defense is bad, defense is bad. But I just feel like when the defense is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've played ball. I guess you could consider me an enthusiast, an analyst. When your defense is on the field all game, they're prone to make mistakes. When your offense is not getting points and not finishing drives, and they're getting 3 and outs and they're stalling out, and your defense is consistently being on the field all game, they're going to give up big play. They're going to give up yards. You're going to lose the game because you're not doing your job. You're putting all the weight on your defense, and they can only do so much. You need offense to step up, and you need offense to score points at the end of the day. But nonetheless, man, Vanderbilt falls to 6-5 on the year. LSU improves to 7-4, ends that 3-game losing streak. And we're looking at Oklahoma next week. So I think that game is, let's see. I feel like LSU plays at, I feel like they play at Oklahoma. But we are about to find out. Let's see. LSU, Oklahoma. It is in Death Valley and it is a night game. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't think the home field advantage makes a huge difference at this point. I don't. But hey, it made a difference. They won the game this past week. So let's go with that. So if we go to college football, let's predict some games going into this week. So week 14, let's look at some matchups that stand out to me. This is a really cool one, man. We have Georgia Tech and at Georgia. So at this point, Georgia is ranked. They're going to move up from 6 or wherever they're at now. They're definitely going to move up. This could be a trap game for Georgia. I think Georgia Tech is a very deceptively good team. That could give Georgia fits because when they get ran on, they don't typically handle it that well. Now, they have looked a little bit better in the last few weeks or so. And I think Georgia, blow for blow, talent-wise, is a better, more talented team than Georgia Tech. But I promise you, if Georgia does not come out hot and start scoring points early, and Georgia Tech starts to have that control in the time of possession, and they start running the ball on Georgia, this could be not going to say a coin flip, but this could be a really interesting game. I think Georgia wins this game, but in my back pocket, I would not be surprised if you see Georgia get upset here because I like Haynes King. I like what he does. I'm glad he's found a home in Georgia Tech where he can thrive and he can throw and he can run like crazy because he's been running crazy all year. So I'm going Georgia in that matchup, but I would not be surprised if we end up getting an upset. This is another huge matchup that me and another one of our co-hosts on one of our other shows, he's a big South Carolina guy. South Carolina, Clemson. This game has serious playoff implications because Clemson's still somewhat in the hunt. And South Carolina is in the thick of things with all these huge upsets over the weekend, especially within the SEC. South Carolina is in the thick of things. They are a really good football team. I am not sold on Clemson. They're not a terrible team, but they have been very inconsistent. You've seen South Carolina get way better throughout the year. Took a questionable loss to LSU earlier in the season. I think they had another 2 losses along the way. But, man, that defense is among the top 5 best defenses in the country, especially that front 7. They know how to get in a quarterback's face and really disrupt things and wreak havoc. They are really good defensively. But offensively, Lenore Sellers is playing lights out. His mobility is a huge thing. His strong arm is a huge thing. You have Rocket Sanders, and you have good weapons at the receiver position. This is going to be a huge matchup. I honestly, look, I'm an SEC guy. Sorry, biased. I want to see South Carolina make the playoffs because if I see South Carolina make the playoffs, that could be dangerous for a lot of these other teams. They are deceptively good. They are elite on defense, and offensively, it feels like they are improving every week. Man, and look, Dabo Swinney's a good coach. Clemson's not a bad team. Could they win this game? Yes, but I just look at the body of work and how both of these teams have been playing. South Carolina is just playing with a lot of momentum. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and they're playing really solid, mistake-free football. If I had to pick this game, man, I'm going Gamecocks, man. I'm going South Carolina to beat Clemson at Clemson. I know it's a hostile environment, not an easy place to win at. I know that over the long stretch of things, Clemson has obviously been getting the best of them. But when South Carolina has a defensive front like this and they play really good like they have been this year, they usually come out winning this game. So, yeah, man, I'm going with Shane Beamer, and I'm going South Carolina to pull off the upset, man. They're going to knock Clemson out of this. They're going to make the playoffs, hopefully, in this one. Let's see. Ooh, another one. Let's talk about the Iron Bowl, Auburn and Alabama. This game is interesting. Alabama, like we just spoke on, coming off an upset loss. It's not a good look, man, especially to Oklahoma. I don't know what you're going to get in this game. You really never know what to get in the Iron Bowl in general because I feel like it doesn't matter what the record is, what the situation is. Something crazy is going to happen, and it's not going to end the way you anticipate most of the time. Auburn, like we said before, pulls off the huge upset of Texas A&M, knocking them probably out of the playoffs and a huge overtime win over them. This is in Tuscaloosa, which is obviously going to be a huge home field advantage for the Crimson Tide. Auburn is a bad team. But I'll tell you, in a game where this is pretty much their Super Bowl equivalent, Man, this could get interesting. Auburn, Alabama. My sports fanship wants to pick Auburn here because I love seeing upsets. And although my co-host came as an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, and I love him very much, I would not mind to see you guys have the same amount of losses as us on the season. You are at 3 losses and we are at 4, so I think it's only fair that you guys take 4 as well as us. But unfortunately, man, if I have to go out on the limb and do anything, I'm going Crimson Tide, man. I think Alabama's just that much better. I don't see them dropping another one to Auburn. For them to lose this game to Auburn, I just feel like, dude, they'd have to have a complete debacle. Like, Auburn would have to come with the perfect game plan, make little to no mistakes, and they would just have to shut Milroe completely down. Is it possible? Yes. Do I think it's likely? More than likely not, in my opinion. I don't think it's likely, but you never know. But I'm going Alabama in this one. This is another big matchup. This is probably the last game we pick. I know we're kind of, feels like SEC heavy. Wow. Actually, no. We could probably pick another one after this. But I'm going to go with this big matchup. Texas and Texas A&M. Huge matchup. Obviously, we spoke on Texas A&M coming off a upset loss to Auburn. Texas has not looked the most convincing. They're coming off a good win against Kentucky. This is at Kyle Field. Texas A&M, very hostile environment. Top 5 most hostile places to play, in my opinion. This game could go either way. Do I like Texas fans? Or do I like Texas? No. Do I like A&M? No. I don't. Both very talented teams. I think it's just going to come down to who makes more mistakes and who wants it more. Because I feel like A&M has overachieved leaps and bounds where we thought they were going to be. Mike Elko coming into year 1, only sitting on 3 losses. I mean, and probably shouldn't have lost the last one. He's really overperformed and really shined. And Texas, obviously we knew Texas was going to be good. But they have had instances where they haven't looked as convincing. And the fact that this is at Texas A&M, man, this is hard for me. Because my gut just wants to say Texas because Texas has got more experience. Texas has probably better players. Steve Sarkisian is an offensive genius. And Texas is just a really good football team, although they have been inconsistent. But I like to push the envelope. I like to try to do things differently, man. This is at Kyle Field. And I love chaos this year. I love what's going on. I love all the craziness, the upsets. Give me Texas A&M to upset number 3 Texas. Give me the Aggies, man. I think the fact this is a home game, I think the Texas A&M Aggies are going to upset Texas when they're at home. I think this could just, man, I keep saying I think, but this is a really good game. Could go either way, but I'm going to go for the upset, man. I'm going Texas A&M. It's going to be a really good one. I'm going to try to watch this one. This is a primetime game at 6:30. I'll probably flip between this one and the LSU-Oklahoma game because obviously LSU fan. But let's see. Is there another game right offhand that we want to talk about? Not really. Not really. Okay, so this show is going to be a lot shorter than normal. We usually have an entire setup, different graphics, presentations, stuff like that. This is more or less a show on the fly. I haven't had to do a show like this in a long time, but we're going to take a short commercial break, and then we're going to transition into all of our NFL content. But yeah, hope you guys are enjoying. Don't forget, check out the Villain Sports Media Network. We're going to have a cool commercial about the channel and stuff like that, but definitely check us out. We're going to commercial break. We will be right back. guys? We are back from commercial break, man. Like I said in the beginning of the show, please, if you like this kind of content, do not forget to subscribe. Like the video if you like this kind of stuff, man. And check out the channel, man. We do weekly shows typically at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, every Sunday night. We do uploads daily of shorts and things of that nature. And like I said, check out the Villain Sports Media Network, man. If you're not just into football, you like everything sports. Cam, my co-host, does do a basketball show. Does multiple uploads a week, multiple shorts a week, pretty much every day almost. We have a wrestling show at every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're probably going to start doing maybe some college basketball, maybe some Major League Baseball stuff going on there. So definitely check out those. And yeah, man. So let's get into our NFL content. I'll be honest with you, I didn't get to watch an entire lot of NFL football this weekend. It was just a lot going on. But we're going to touch base. We're going to touch base on some games that happened. We still have some games actually going on right now. So we're going to touch base on the ones that are going on or have been going on. And then we're going to get into the ones going into Week 13. So let's pull up this Week 12 schedule. Alrighty, let's see. First matchup. An AFC North matchup, which the AFC North, I feel like, has been giving us the best games this year from a standpoint of just competitive. It's reminding me a lot of growing up, and I feel like the AFC North being like the juggernaut division, at least in the AFC, between Baltimore, between Pittsburgh, between Cincinnati, and Cleveland's kind of been here, and we're not going to get into all that. But they are on this side of the conversation. We have Pittsburgh traveling to Cleveland in a game that Cleveland was sitting at 2-8 and Pittsburgh was sitting at 8-2, having a really good season. Cleveland coming off an upset victory over the Baltimore Ravens last week, which Cam was not very happy about that because he is obviously a Baltimore Ravens fan. Jameis Winston subbing in for Deshaun Watson out for the season, and he had a pretty good game last week. Pittsburgh going in this game, I would think they would assume they would win this game, but they did not, man. Cleveland picks up their third win of the year, man. They pull off the victory 24-19. Jameis Winston doesn't have the greatest game. Finishes 18 of 27 for 219 and an interception. Nick Chubb, man, but gets in the end zone 2 times, 59 yards on the ground. We look at Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson didn't have a bad game, man. Over almost 300 yards passing and a touchdown. We start looking at the statistics, man. It really wasn't a bad game. Like, back and forth. Pittsburgh just ran out of time, man. They just didn't score when they needed to. And I wonder what the division... Let's check this out. I know this is a little bit different than normal, but let's just see. I want to see what the division standings are while we're talking about this. Let's check it out. All right, let's pull this up. Any day now, we love technology. Okay, so we're looking at the AFC North, man. So Pittsburgh takes the loss here. They're still in, I would say, firm control of the AFC North. They're really not. This is still a really close division. Pittsburgh is sitting at 8-3. The Baltimore Ravens are 1 game behind at 7-4. The Cincinnati Bengals, we're not going to talk about them today. Man, they are just bad off, man. Joe Burrow is having an MVP-like season, and their defense is horrendous. They are sitting at 4-7, and then the Browns are 1 game behind them at 3-8. I've got to imagine the Cleveland Browns are going to be looking for a quarterback in this draft coming up. I know you still owe Deshaun Watson a lot of money. I don't know how you get out of that contract, or do you let him sit behind Deshaun until you're ready to move on from him? It's not a good look for Cleveland, man. Every time you think that they're finally getting it together, they don't. They have a lot of that money tied into them. They just don't. Just very unlucky. I mean, but good for them. They got the win today, man. Pittsburgh takes the loss, and now the gap between them and Baltimore is that much closer. AFC North is the best division in football right now, in my opinion. Let's talk about this game that I did not see coming. The same guy that we were talking about was a huge, when I say huge, I mean huge Vanderbilt fan, is also a Tennessee Titans fan. And I am having technical difficulties on my end. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I want to pull up these stats for the Houston Texans. Week 12. Okay. Where is the stats at? There we go. Perfect. Sorry about that, guys. So let's talk about this game. Tennessee at Houston. Tennessee, if you do not know, is a horrible team who I felt like was trying to tank for the #1 pick, but they just seem to just want to keep winning games and screwing themselves out of having whoever they want in the draft, man. Tennessee with the upset victory over the Houston Texans, man. They finished 32-27 in a game that I don't think anybody else could have anticipated. This is a game that's seen C.J. Stroud. Not the greatest game. Efficiently not bad. 20 for 33, 247, 2 touchdowns, but he has 2 interceptions, man. And like I said before, when you have a game that's that close in margin, those turnovers make a huge difference. Joe Mixon, their run game, non-existent for Houston. Nico Collins catches a touchdown, almost 100 yards. Well, let's look at the Titans, though. Will Levis, not a horrible game. 18 for 24, 278, and 2 touchdowns with an interception. Let's talk about the Titans actually having a run game for once since Derrick Henry has left. Tony Pollard, free agent acquisition, finally gets off. 24 carries for 119, averaged 5 yards a carry and a touchdown, man. Went off with Calvin Ridley catching for almost 100 yards as well. Tennessee is a bad football team. Nonetheless, this is a very concerning loss for the Texans. Me having Houston in the thick of things in the AFC contention for the Super Bowl, this alarms me. Now, when they took that upset loss to the Jets, it didn't bother me. So I'm like, okay. But I just knew that, okay, if we take another loss like that, it's not going to end up being pretty. And obviously see that, man. Houston has some issues that they need to resolve. And I'm not confident that they're going to be able to make a big run in the playoffs unless they can show me something else. But let's get into this next one, man. We're looking at the Cowboys and Commanders. I'm going to have to start running through this. We're kind of running out of time. I have some other things going on. Cowboys and Commanders, man. This was a game that I anticipated the Commanders to win, man. Dallas comes out, gets a good victory, 34-26. Cooper Rush has a really good game. This is another game of quarterback turning the ball over, man. Jaden Daniels has 2 interceptions, almost 300 yards passing. Has a good game, almost 100 yards rushing. McLaurin has over 100 yards receiving. Those mistakes, you know, they're still a young team. They're still trying to figure things out. Daniels is obviously going to probably win Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, if not Bo Nix. But take a bad loss, an in-division loss. Washington still got a chance to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, they take the loss here. This is another game that I was completely surprised to see the score from. And that is going to be, wow, okay, it's not, okay, there we go. We have the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to North Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers, man. They only pull out a 30-27 victory. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, they did just enough to win, man. Mahomes throws 3 touchdowns. They get over 100 yards on the ground. Not really crazy. He spread the ball out a lot offensively. Carolina, though, man. Let's check out Bryce Young. Okay. Looks like we're just going to have issues, apparently. Bryce Young doesn't have the worst game, not the best game. And Carolina, that's an improvement, man. You only lose to the Chiefs by 3 points. It's not a bad look, man. They're still a really bad team. I'm hoping going forward that they can figure things out. But nonetheless, Chiefs sneak out a lucky win. And, man, let's talk about the Vikings and the Bears, man. Vikings improved to 9-2 on the year. They beat the Bears 30-27 in a game that Caleb Williams didn't play bad, man. Over 300 yards passing, almost 350 yards, 2 touchdowns. Darnold has a similar game, over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. They just don't have enough, man. This is a really high-flying game. Quarterbacks throwing the ball everywhere, but Minnesota continues to ride the Darnold train, like Cam would say, and they get a win, man. Improved to 9-2. The Bears fall to 4-7, and I'd like to see if the Vikings can transition this going into the playoffs. And yeah, man, I kind of want to see if they can make a run, man. Darnold's looking to get paid. I know they drafted J.J. McCarthy. Darnold's obviously going to sign somewhere else, but what do you guys think? Do you think that Darnold is going to get an extension from Minnesota, or do you think he's going to get paid? If he does get paid, where do you guys see him going? I'm just going to run through a few games for Week 13. Just pick a few games that really pop off the stat sheet to me. So if I'm looking at these games, I kind of like the Falcons and Chargers matchup. I think Justin Herbert's been playing really good. And I think the Falcons are still a decent team. Honestly, I picked Atlanta to win the NFC South, but I think the NFC South's kind of up in the air. Give me the Chargers, man. I really like what Justin Herbert's doing. We've got Pittsburgh and Cincy. I really want to pick Cincinnati to win this game. I really love Joe Burrow, as you can see. Man, the defense is just horrible. They're going to have to make a decision if they're going to pay T. Higgins or Trey Hendrickson. I love Trey Hendrickson, but I think you need to retain T. Higgins. To have him and Chase is lethal. But I'm going to have Pittsburgh winning this game, man. The Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Whoo, my gosh. Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. The Eagles are a really good team. The Baltimore Ravens are a really good team. This is a potential Super Bowl matchup in the regular season. In Baltimore, I think Philly's riding a really good high, but I think Baltimore needs a really good win here. Give me the Baltimore Ravens at home by not much, man. This is probably going to be, they're probably going to be a score in the 20s and 30s. Give me the Baltimore Ravens by 3 to 7 points. I think Baltimore pulls off the win and a much needed win confidence-wise, trying to stay alive in the AFC North to win that division. Let's see. Raiders and Chiefs, man. No. Let's see. Texans and Jaguars. The Jaguars are a complete dumpster fire. Vikings and Cardinals is a really good one in Minnesota. Arizona is sneaky good. They're still in contention to win the NFC West. I would love to see the upset here. I think Arizona could win this game, but I think Minnesota is playing really good ball. Darnold's playing really mistake-free ball, and the Vikings defense is really good. Like, I thought they were going to be horrible like they were last year, man. Give me the Minnesota Vikings at home to get the win over the in-division rival Arizona Cardinals. And then, I mean, there's not really another game that really pops off the stat sheet, man. They have other cool matchups. They have the Seahawks and Jets, not really. Chiefs and Raiders. We have the Dolphins and Packers. The Bears and Lions could be a really good one, although I think Detroit will get the win there. I mean, it could go either way. And we have the 49ers and Bills, and it's looking like Brock Purdy's probably going to be back for that game. I think right now, the 49ers, 49ers took a 38-10 loss. That sucks for them. The Denver Broncos game just finished. They win 29-16 over the Vegas Raiders. And the Seahawks beat the Cardinals 16-6. So, yeah, I'm ready for playoffs, man, especially college football. I'm ready for NFL playoffs, but college football is going to be interesting. I want to see what the standings look like once we get through conference championship, and we're really going to see like what craziness could transpire. But there's going to be a lot more craziness to transpire in between that time. But I'm sorry for the short show, guys. Time restraints and limited resources where I'm at, but I really hope you enjoyed the show. NFL content, college content, man, thank you so much for watching. Like I said before, if you do like this kind of content, don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit that bell notification so you never miss a beat. Check us out on all major social media platforms, Facebook, X, and so on. Don't forget to check us out on all audio platforms as well. Spotify, Apple, Amazon, things like that. And please don't forget to check the YouTube channel for the Villain Sports Media Network. It would be greatly appreciated, man. I hope you enjoyed. If this is a small sample size, check out the last videos, man. When it's me and Cam, and we'll be back full swing next week, us together. But, man, this is Brandon with the Football Frame of Mind podcast. I really hope you enjoyed and have an awesome day. Deuces.